13号，关丹一名跨性别者沙蜜拉被残暴地杀害。她被捅多次，右手4只手指被斩断，头部严重受创，右手臂被肢解。目击者说，仿佛她用尽全力跟加害者搏斗。这名跨性别者2年前曾经被绑架、性侵以及施暴，后来因为绑匪遇上车祸，才被警察救获。这起绑架案本月原本定在沙亚南法庭审讯，死者更是本案唯一的证人。这一切都为沙蜜拉的命案更添疑云。虽然目前警方正在调查这起命案，但是警方已经否认沙蜜拉的死是一起仇恨犯罪。祸端就是沙蜜拉跨性别者的身份，但是沙蜜拉的命案却让我们再次关注马来西亚跨性别群体。国际人权组织将马来西亚列为对待跨性别群体最糟糕的国家。为什么会如此？难道纯粹因为我们对跨性别朋友的不理解产生的排斥、反感，甚至打压，亦或马来西亚体制背后存在着你我看不到的盲点？
各位观众朋友，大家晚上好，欢迎收看我们今天晚上的 On the Hot Seat， 我是你的主持人丽珍。在我们还没有开始进行今天的访问之前，还是要提醒各位观众朋友，你们可以在任何时候参与我们的讨论，只要在讨论区上贴上你们的问题，制作人认为适合的话，我们便会让受访者为您解答。事不宜迟，我们现在就开始我们今天晚上的访问。Hi Nisha.
Hi.
Thank you for coming here. Welcome to
me.
Pocket Times. We started our show today with the brutal death of Samira in Kuantan. Yeah,
yes.
Kuantan, right? So the reason that we started this is because of all the rights that we have under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Okay.
The right to life is actually the very basic
fundamental rights.
Yes, the very fundamental rights that we have. If our trans friend couldn't even enjoy that in this country, what else? What else do we expect? So, actually, how dangerous it is for trans people to live in Malaysia?
Okay. I mean, I'm sure you are aware of the human right report came out saying that, I'm scared to be a woman. Basically said Malaysia is one of the country that has the worst laws against transgender people. And when we have laws that is strictly towards trans people for their identity, automatically that will reflect to your question how dangerous it is. It is dangerous because trans people are basically denied of the existence of being a part of the society.
Yes.
And automatically people assume that, we don't have rights as to be a part of the society, right? And they can react towards in any form of violence towards the community. So, coming back to your question, it depends where we are. It depends which state we are in Malaysia. A lot of trans community tend to come to Kuala Lumpur because I would say there's more opportunity here and people here are more open and acceptance towards diverse people, right? Compared to certain states where it's very strict. Like for instance where I come from, Malacca, it's difficult for trans people to get a simple job in an outlet or so on because they are in fear that they can be arrested just because of their identity.
It's very interesting that because you raised the issue of the legal framework that's against trans people in this country, but as far as we know, or because many people will think that it only affects the Muslim trans people, but the way that you say it, it's like does it affect other trans people as well, as the community in general?
To be honest, even though the law, the Sharia law applies to only Muslim, but in reality it affects everyone. Let's go to the basic rights, the right to our identity. The law says that you can't wear women's attire, blah blah blah, in the Sharia law, right? But for a non-Muslim to be recognized as his or her gender would not be so allowed in Malaysia. So if an Indian transgender person or a Chinese transgender person who went for the sex reassignment surgery, he or she will not still be allowed to change his or her identity. So basically, they are affected by the Sharia law.
Okay.
And in reality, based on the percentage of race in Malaysia. 60% in Malaysia are basically Muslim, right? And most of the time, when you go to all these government agencies or wherever, whether it's IC or so on, right? A lot of them are Muslims, right?
Yes.
So whether you are Muslim, whether you are Hindu, a Christian or whatsoever, if you are a transgender person, you'll be basically discriminated because of your gender, not because of your ethnicity or race or whatsoever. Yeah.
Okay. So, personally, you are an activist and you're out there speaking out for the community. Have you encountered any episodes like assault that threaten your personal safety?
Yes. I mean, sadly, yes. It happened to me, I think, September 10, 2015.
Oh.
Yeah, it happened to me where I was basically attacked by 3 unknown persons. They basically waited for me down near my car. I was taking the flats, and they waited for me down there, and they assaulted me. Thank God my mom saw the whole incident. I mean, I wish she didn't, but because of her screaming from the 6th floor.
Wow.
Yeah, she was screaming out loud. She was really screaming out loud from and those people basically didn't manage to, because I still remember the words that the guy mentioned. He was saying it in Tamil. I do understand Tamil too. So he was saying, today's your last day. And he was holding the rod and everything. I got a big cut on my thighs here. It's a mark that I can never forget. And I'm not saying that I'm happy that the incident happened, but it made me realize that, when we become an advocate or an activist, we need to be cautious of certain things where people would tend to use violence and attack against you. And being an advocate at the same time, I need to think about my own security too. So, yeah.
Okay, it's like it's sort of like a targeted crime, right? Actually, what do you think is the biggest threat to personal safety of trans people in Malaysia?
For me, honestly, the biggest threat is when we have religious people, when we have certain politicians and certain mainstream media giving out hate messages to the society at large. When we have people saying that trans people are deviant, LGBT people are in the wrong path, and all those negative messages towards the society out there, what happens? They are basically encouraging hatred, violence from the society out there towards the minorities. And this is what is happening till today. We are always being seen as a community that is the biggest threat to Malaysia. It's as if our existence would ruin the whole nation. But to be honest, if you look at the community, we are not the issue. We do not create any problem to the society. It's vice versa, So, yeah.
Why do you think, you mentioned religious authority?
Okay.
Yeah, why do you think the trans community, the transgender community is actually being targeted by this community? And has it actually been better by the religious authority? Has things been better?
No, to be honest, no. They started with a rehabilitation campaign towards trans people, where they have this debate that trans is something that is nurtured, right? Which I totally disagree, because being trans person is not nurture, it's nature. We are born in sort of way, right? But these people, they have this mindset. They feel that they know how to be a trans person, and they feel that they can change a trans person. But at the end of the day, no one, trust me, no one would understand the trans better than ourselves. Not even the LGBT community, because LGBT is also a spectrum of sexuality and gender identity. So the only people would understand our issues, our concerns, and our needs is us. So they need to ask us actually how we feel, rather than having this mindset that we can change, and they set up all this program and activities and so-called with this term repented trans people, which I do not agree. Definitely no.
So So, like you say that it could be that that's repented, and they sent you guys to rehabilitation. What is it? Is it curable? Is it curable? Yeah, because
Okay.
some people really think so. I mean, this is not only applied to the trans people. Actually, it applies to maybe the lesbian community, the homo community. Yeah, some people think that it's like a disease. It's curable.
Okay.
But perhaps you can explain it to us.
Okay. It's really funny because first of all, we're not a disease. I've, as an advocate, I've touched people. I mean, I've shook hands even with you. Did you become a trans person?
No, I don't.
No, you didn't. Right? You're still who you are, right? This whole idea of it's a disease, I think it's that whole word of disease itself. You are basically, being unjust to us, basically being a human being, and the whole gender identity has been recognized internationally from the medical perspective. We are recognized as, as a medical point of view, and we exist, and if you go back to the history of Malaysia, even the time of Malaya, we exist in the palace of king and queens. At that time we were known as the Sida. So, I mean, not to say that even before Islamization came in the 80s, sex change was basically done here in Malaysia. And people don't talk about it, and people did not know that. People always assume that Thailand was the only land where they have sexism and surgery and all those stuff, but people don't know the history. In Asia, Malaysia was the second country. The first was Singapore, second was Malaysia, then only Thailand.
But we don't have it now anymore.
Yeah, because they ban it. This is the problem with some of these religious people. Basically, they just don't want to have a proper debate or a proper discussion. They don't want to have a two-way discussion. It's always a one-way. They already set their mind this is wrong and whatsoever, so you got to stop it without looking at the pro and cons of their action itself.
Yeah, you started to know that you are actually different from who you what you perceive to be from the outside at the age of 5. What sort of experience is that?
As people always say, kids are the most innocent, right? And at that time of moment, I have always been corrected by my mom and my family members in a way that I ask myself, what did I do wrong? Because I was just being myself, you see. But I started to notice the meaning of boy and girl when I started to go to school. That's where I realized, okay, now you have a boy supposed to wear like this and a girl supposed to wear like that, and so on. And at the same time, you can see some pictures of me where my mom would be laughing at me while I was dancing, because at that time they were thinking, nah, it's just a face time, the kid will change at a certain time and everything. But at the end of the day, when I tend to portray myself as who I am towards the feminine side, especially in school days, that's where I started to learn that it is not good to be too open as being feminine, because you'd be targeted. And sadly, I was targeted because I was in a boys' school at the same time. So, but that constant feeling of why this is happening to me. And at that time, religion does play an important role, because I was in a boys' school and I'm a Muslim and I have to go to religious classes, right? I was told that, being different, if you're attracted to the same sex or whatsoever, you go to hell.
Okay.
So the guilt was always there in me. And I had no one to talk to. I had no one to talk to understand me. And the only oppression that I get is that you have to change. But I didn't change. I'm still who I am, till today.
Okay, so what message do you have for maybe some trans people that's going out there and experiencing the same thing? How can they be themselves?
Okay, I always advise the future generation of trans people in Malaysia is that get your education first. Get your education first, and once you are well equipped with your education and everything, then you start your life. And for those who are going for an early transition, do not force yourself to be, because this is the mistake that a lot of trans people do. They want to be accepted so much to be a part of the society, to be a part of these boxes, right? That they forget about themselves, right? And this is where I tend to talk about sex reassignment surgery, because most of the time people think that the main priority of a trans person is about sex reassignment surgery. No, it's just, those are just plus points for trans people. The main part of it is self-acceptance, which I always emphasize on that. Once you accept yourself, once you understand about yourself, then you think about the other steps of it.
So you mean that you mean to say that some in the community actually think that sex assignment is the thing to do? It's like the goal.
It's because of social construct. Even, I must be honest, even myself, I was a part of this social construct where I think that a woman's supposed to look like Madhuri Dixit.
Okay.
Where I assume that a woman's supposed to be like that, and I forget about my own health. You see, I have BP, blood pressure, when I was 28 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to taking hormones and everything, right?
Okay.
So there is repercussion of my action. I don't blame anyone. I blame myself for not getting the right information. That is what I'm trying to spread now. Giving the right information for trans people, for them to make the choice.
How do they actually, how did you get all this information? Like, from where you get the hormone pills? Yeah.
Sadly, in Malaysia, it's difficult, but I do get information from my allies, basically. Like, I'm also a part of WPATH, the World Health for Transgender People, so that's where I get information. Information which is updated all the time, you see. And I'm also a part of regional and so international network of trans people. So we do share information here and there in regards of trans health and, whatsoever. But coming back to the topic again,
yes.
It's when I say giving this information, I'm not encouraging.
Oh, you don't?
I don't encourage people. I don't say you have to do this, you have to do that. Giving the information so that they can make their own choices.
Informed decision.
That's right, informed decision. Rather than just going to Thailand, giving the doctor that doesn't really think about your health but think about the money.
How much does it cost?
For now, for top surgery, it's like around 5,000 to 6,000 in Thailand, Malaysian ringgit, yeah. And for the bottom surgery, it's around 11,000 to 13,000.
It's quite costly, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is actually even more costlier for trans men, actually.
Oh.
Yes, yeah, it could reach out to 100,000 ringgit Malaysia.
100,000 ringgit?
Yes.
For trans men?
Trans men, yeah. We always talk about trans women, but we have to remember that there are so trans men existence here in Malaysia too. Yeah.
But the trans men are not actually very much discussed.
Yeah, and I think so. A lot of them are they're just afraid. What happened if then they'll be targeted? You see, and then I just read in the news that there was a father basically raped his own daughter, who is lesbian, that want to change her, So imagine if it was a trans man, things will happen to people. So I do understand why they are not so open about it. But again, we need to we need to also include them in our fight towards equality too, right?
So you mentioned something about gender identification. What was I was actually trying to ask. You have a role model as what sort of women should be. That's a social construct. But what you're trying to tell people is just be yourself.
Yes.
You don't have to look like someone or, have big breasts, nice ass, that type of...
curvy shapes and, Coca-Cola bottle and everything.
Yes. But you have been through the same phase, like any of the girls.
I have to admit, yes. And I do not want those girls to go through what I've gone through. I want those girls to have the information that they have towards, because they have their right to their health. And health, it includes all those stuff. hormones and everything, that is their right to health.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So I just hope that they will not do things without knowing what they are putting inside them, because we have a lot of cases of trans people going to the extent of silicone injections and everything that actually come harmful towards them too. But I don't blame them. It's because of the banning of sex reassignment surgery in Malaysia, because before this doctors gave information in regards of this. They basically gave you like 2 years support system, with a gynae, with a psychiatrist and everything. So you are basically well informed about, what will happen here and there and so on. Now, when they basically ban everything, they're actually making the community going out underground and getting information which is not relevant, So,
or maybe endangering to themselves.
yes.
Okay, so because you talk about like access to health service, so maybe we can talk about the level of social acceptance of trans people in Malaysia. Okay. How well or how unwell that this community is being accepted into our society. Yes.
Again, based on my observation, it depends where we are. And so far, on my own experience, advocating on trans rights, I noticed that the younger generation, they are more open. They are more open and they can basically accept, trans people as being a part of the society and so on, which is a positive side. The main problem that I have is all this, I wouldn't want to use the word old, but the seniors, right?
Yes.
All the seniors are the one that I find difficult for them to accept this diverse community. But again, I'm a very positive person. The seniors wouldn't be there all the time. So we have this younger generation. So I see a positive change in the future. Maybe not in my time, maybe in the future and so on. But it's all about hope. And I have hope. So,
like for you, take you for instance, when you go onto the street, does people still look at you with a kind, still stare at you or something?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It depends with who I am. Because when I go in public with my partner, people don't really look at me. It also comes back to how we present ourselves. And I always tell this to my community, we can't be, hoping and wanting the society to accept us. We have to play the role to be accepted by the society. It's both ways, right? So it comes back to us again, how we represent ourselves in public, in the society.
Do you try to blend in?
I wouldn't say I'm blending in, but I'm just trying to not to be targeted.
Because the reason that I asked is because my colleague raised a point which I think is very relevant. She said that if you are like in a better position as a trans person, you can, maybe you're lucky you have better silicone implant and you look really blended into the community and you're not that obvious. But for some trans people, maybe they cannot afford all those things. So their outlook will be very apparent that they are trans. So they will be targeted. Yeah. So is that a situation like that?
Yeah, I think the term would be whether you are passable or not.
Passable. Yes. Right? Passable.
Passable, right? Sadly, in our society right now, I mean, being passable is also important. Again, when you are targeted, you can never know what's going to happen. You can never know who's going to come to you and say words to you or whatsoever, right? But coming back from a trans perspective, about my own perspective, I believe that if we want to be a part of the society, we need to normalize things. We need to normalize trans rather than saying that this is something different. Like for instance, I always say that I don't fight, there's no such thing as LGBT rights. For me, we are all human beings and we are all fighting for same human rights. You see, and the basic human rights to have rights to education and all those stuff, and of course right to be protected by the law.
Yes.
Right. Right. So it comes back to the community ourselves to make sure that what we do, what we say, how we act doesn't how do you say it, become like something which is out of like a taboo. We need to stop that. We need to make people understand that we are just as like you. I am you, you are me. We are just human beings. That's the main thing that we need to do.
Are they actually, because you have been raising like issues like the religious authority, and we've been talking about Muslim community, Muslim and non-Muslim transgender. Are there differences in terms of treatment by the society at large for trans people from different races?
You mean as part of being whether you're Chinese?
A Chinese trans woman, or an Indian trans woman, or a Malay trans woman?
Okay. I mean, if you go to Chowkit, for instance,
Yes.
right, or any areas, you can see a lot of Malay and Indian trans, which is basically there. Chinese is very minimal, and I would say, because I do live in a Chinese area back when I was back in Malacca, right? The acceptance of Chinese community towards trans or whatsoever is more open, right, compared to the other races. As for Indians, I mean, I'm also half Indian, right? I find it that my Malay family is more receptive.
Oh,
yes. My sisters and my brothers, we are different mother, same father.
Oh,
right?
okay.
They are very open towards me as being who I am, and my nephews and so on. But when it comes to my Indian family,
your mom's side.
my mom's side, before that, it was difficult. They didn't really acknowledge.
Before what?
Before me being open about as an advocate.
Before you don't care.
Yes. So it was difficult, and it's really funny though, because there's a lot of cases of Indian trans women being like chased away from their house like when they're like 15, 16 years old.
Where do they go to?
Where else? They have no choice but on the street, because with that age, with no proper education and everything, you can't leave. And a lot of people, sadly, a lot of the mainstream media tend to portray trans as being that, sex work. But you have to understand, why is it trans are being into that work? It's because of the society. It's because of the law. It's because of the situation.
Is it because that you guys don't really have? I mean, there's the opportunity to be gainfully employed.
Yes.
You don't have the opportunity.
Okay. A lot of trans, even though they are, qualified for the position, they will not be judged because of that. They will be judged because of their appearance. And I've heard cases of trans people going for interviews, and at the first glance they just say, okay, even though the position is open, but they will say it's closed.
Oh.
Yeah. So there is still an issue of employment towards trans people, and sadly it's happening till today.
So they have to resort to sex work because they need money too.
Yes, and people need to know we are human, and we need to eat too, right? So we need to survive, right? So I do totally understand, So yeah.
I mean, even doing sex work, right? But you guys were still being targeted, raided, and all those things. Can you just explain some of the things that maybe the sex workers would have gone through in Malaysia?
There is a lot of unreported cases of trans people, especially those involved in sex work and everything, that they face hate crimes and violence, whether it's by the enforcers, whether it's by the public and so on. But it's all unreported. Do you know why? Because most of them feel that if they were to report it, nothing will happen, or they'll be blamed because of it.
Are they afraid of going to the police?
They are very afraid to go to the police, because they feel that they are not protected by the system, by the lawyer. I mean, you can't blame them, just by the way certain politician and the media portrays LGBT, say so. if you look at the banning of Beauty and the Beast itself, I still just don't understand why.
Well, they unbanned it. That's the latest news now.
Okay. I need to get that updated. But, yeah. But again, I mean, the whole concept of banning a movie for LGBT, that shows how do you say this? How I would say it's just something which is just not relevant. Something that you don't think about it, but they are doing it here in Malaysia. So that applies towards the life of a trans person. And between this LGBT community, the trans are most affected. Do you know why? It's because of our visibility.
Oh, you're out there.
We are just out
the
there.
way that you
People
dressed.
could recognize us, and it is very sad that I have a group in Facebook, Malaysian trans woman. A trans woman just went to change her ID in the registration department, and she was basically laughed at, and the question being asked to her was like, "Which toilet do you go?" She wanted to change her ID to a new ID, but that question was asked to her.
Then the ID was not even. She was not even asking to change her sex, right?
No. She just wanted to renew her ID to a new picture of her. But then she was asked that question. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about because I read somewhere that the raid were conducted so much that sometimes the trans people, they don't carry condoms, the sex worker. Is there such a threat? Is there such thing going on?
Yes, it is, because I was informed by the community that these safe kits or condoms will be used as an evidence.
I heard bra as well.
Everything. Even their shoes, their lipsticks and everything will be used as an evidence to basically, arrest them.
So when trans women is being picked up by the authorities, what do they do to them?
What do the authorities do to them?
Yeah, the procedure. I mean, how do they do it? Because
if it's the police, basically they will bring you to the station, and then they will end up asking you to go for urine tests and everything. And sometimes they will put you in lockup, like for remand and everything, and you'll be end up in the male's lockup. And guess what happened to you? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the police. And if it's the Jabatan Agama, the Religious Department, the next day they will bring to the magistrate and everything, and they will try to bring them to the Sharia law, which is sections for cross-dressing. So if you are...
So when they take your attire, right, as evidence, so they strip these people naked?
I do get a lot of cases where trans people were asked to open their attire in front of the officers.
Oh.
Yeah, and they were given males, whether it's pants or whether it's just the sarong or so, but they have to change in front of them. So.
Okay. Wow.
And that's just one side of the story. There's more than that. We have cases of trans people being forced to do oral sex for the enforcers and everything. But again, as I'm saying earlier on, a lot of this community, they wouldn't want to come up and speak up, and I don't blame them, because they are afraid. They are afraid that they will be subjected to the law itself.
So this case just go unreported,
It
not
goes down the
investigated.
carpet. Yes.
And it goes on.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think, one thing that is looming now is the passing of RUU 355 in Malaysia,
Okay.
in the parliament. Do you think it's going to affect the trans community, the trans people community?
Honestly, even now, the law right now is actually being a burden towards the trans community. So
they could impose higher fine.
Yeah, it could be higher than that, and we're going to be
higher sentence,
subjected to more higher
longer
sentence,
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I hope it will not be approved. But again, coming back to the situation right now, even the law system right now is not conducive towards trans people. So I can't imagine if it's something else, which is RU 3.
让 undang-undang 355.
Yeah, 355. Yeah.
Yes, it's about hudud. It's actually not about hudud they claim to be, but it actually increased the power of Sharia court.
Yes.
Yeah, which is Sharia law, which has been used against a lot of Muslim trans people.
Community.
Yes. Actually, we wanted to know, you are very actively involved in activism work, activist work, promoting trans people's rights and all these things. What are the trans activism in Malaysia seeking to achieve?
What we want to achieve, we want to be recognized as being human being and also as a part of the citizen of Malaysia. That's all. We're not asking for more. And why I said recognition is important, because once we are recognized, then all the other stuff will basically come forward, you see. So that's it. Not more than that. We just want equal rights. We want equal opportunities as everyone else. We want to be protected by the law, not discriminated by the law.
Okay. We have a question actually from Yue Tianxia, this particular audience. So he asked, how was the LGBT people situation in Malaysia compared to other country you know? Is there any social movement from other country that can help to inspire us?
Wow. Okay. It's a very interesting question, because I've actually met some of our religious people here in Malaysia to discuss about trans issues specifically.
From the authority?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember my meeting with them was that I actually used a country a Muslim country, Islamic country, where I recognized trans people, and their response was basically they are different mazhab.
What's up?
Mazhab scholars.
Okay.
They are different scholars.
Different interpretation
and everything. So to be honest, a lot of our leaders here have this mentality of, whenever we started to compare Malaysia with other countries, they will give, whether it's a different mazhab or different scholars, or whether those are their culture and so on. But let's come back to Asia. I always give our own situation, which is before Islamization, before the 80s. Why is it trans people were accepted? Why is it trans people can have proper job? Why is it trans people at that time can change their gender marker and everything? Why is it not now? So I would rather use our own example here rather than using example from out there, because trust me, the leaders here wouldn't accept it. they will give you all kind of reasons, basically.
Okay, you use a term just now, gender marker.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Gender marker is basically our identity, whether it's male or female. Because
in our official record.
Yes.
So now you're not allowed to change it.
No. After the 80s, it was basically banned. So whether you've gone for your sex change or whatsoever, you cannot change, and you can't even change your name right now.
So,
and that applies to even non-Muslim.
Oh,
yes.
So before 80s, you could do that.
Yes.
So you're saying that even non-Muslim, when they go and change to the NRD, National Registration Department, wanting to change their
they were not allowed
gender.
to. They were asked you to go to the court. And the most recent case of a trans Chinese man,
yes,
who basically, the court basically approved, right? And then the NRD basically appeal again, so that it can be heard again. So there you go. It applies even to non-Muslims.
Yes. Okay, so another audience, KK, okay, he said this. You use the term normalized.
Yeah.
Okay, but we also know that there are always some discrimination in the society. So what can ordinary people do to achieve it?
Okay. First of all, I hope people do not misinterpret when I said normalize as if that we want to be a part of the social construct. What I mean is that so that when we become a part of society, people are not fear of us, because fear actually creates hatred. So that's what I mean by being a part of society, being normalized, right? So and the other question was, what can other people do to achieve it? To achieve.
I think we might need some help, but
Okay.
I know. I think maybe they wanted to say that
What can
we do to help,
Is it
or actually to eliminate discrimination?
Oh, okay. I would say, what other? Let me use the word cisgender people. Cisgender people are basically non-transgender people, right? So what cisgender people can do out there is basically be an ally to us. When I say be an ally, start to talk about our issue. Like for instance, today, spread this news, share in Facebook, share with your family members, start to create awareness, because this is the reason why I believe that I tend to speak a lot, because the power of speaking up is very, very huge. Actually, it changes a lot of people.
Some of us might not know how to deal. No, I wouldn't say the word deal. Like, when we face trans people, we might not know what's the right term to use.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes we were taught all this. Maybe we didn't even know that it is derogatory, but it is actually. So how would the community like us to, maybe address or refer to what kind of pronoun should we use? Can you explain a bit on that?
Okay. In different races, there is different terms. Like for the Malay trans community, we would prefer the word or the term maknya. It's more acceptance, and the community is more happy about that kind of term as maknya. Okay, or trans woman or trans man, right? In the Indian community, the word tirunangai.
Okay.
Tirunangai is for trans woman. Okay, and then we have tirutambi, which is for trans man. Okay, and then for the Chinese community,
okay. Nowadays we try to use the word 跨性别. 跨性别.
跨性别.
Yeah, but
okay.
it refers to transgender. So
okay.
there is no男女. We don't. I mean, I don't know. Not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because previously I remember they used to use the word,变性人.
Yes.
Which I think is about.
It doesn't. It's not really right, because not all of them went through that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound good.
It
actually.
sounds like alien, right?
Yes. So now, when we report about the transgender community, we usually use 跨性别.
Okay.
So, okay. Has things been better? Okay. Let's see. Is there a third question?
Okay.
This is very personal. Should we ask? But yes, maybe we can. I think Nisha is so open about
I'm
things.
in a hot seat right now.
Okay, come. Eric Wong.
Okay.
I would like to ask a personal question.
Okay.
It might be sweet. How did you meet your partner?
Okay.
Yeah, it's about your personal love
How did I
story.
meet my partner? I met my partner in Facebook.
Serious?
Seriously, in Facebook.
After you come out and do all this activist work?
No, before that.
How
I
long?
knew him. No, okay. I actually knew him way back then in Facebook, and then we just lost contact. And then after I won the award by the U.S. state, basically, he congratulated me, and that's where it started again.
Oh, so it's pretty new, actually.
It is new, but we have known each other before that. So yeah.
So how was it, the whole journey?
He's basically a divorcee. So, and I was someone which is abandoned, unwanted.
Why would you say that?
So we click, basically. We click, and I think. Sorry, I think whether it's a trans person or cisgender person, it's all about connecting. And and I was connected with him right away, and it was for him. It's the first time he have a relationship with a trans person, and he's happy about it, and he's very out about it. He even have a tattoo of my name in his chest and everything. So
okay, it's not about trans or not trans relationship. Usually they advise people not to have that.
To be honest, I did advise him, but you know how men's are, but again, I've been living together with him, and again, we are connected. He understands me, I understand him, and I can be open to him. Some certain things people don't know, he knows about me, and I know about him. So yeah,
that's the point about a relationship.
Yeah. It's not about whether you're a boy or girl or whatsoever. It's all about that understanding that.
You're very lucky. Okay, just now I asked you, how do you like, how does the trans community like us to address or what pronoun? Actually, what else can ordinary people do to make your life better, to make the trans people's life better?
Okay.
I think this would be our last question for today.
Okay, I would say, what can ordinary people do? I'm repeating again, start to be an ally, start to advocate on trans issue, because if you support trans people for their rights, you are supporting your rights too. Why do I say so? Because we are fighting the right to, to our identity, the right to movement, the right towards, personal liberty, liberty and everything, the right to health. Those rights applies to everyone. So if you support trans rights, if you support LGBT rights, you are supporting your own rights too. So come and be our allies, start to be an advocate.
Yeah.
You can be an advocate in any way you can. Start small.
Okay, thank you so much for your
Most
time
welcome.
today, and all this generous sharing that you have. 我们各位荧光幕前的观众朋友，谢谢大家收看今天晚上的节目。听过妮莎的分享，相信大家都知道，其实跨性别朋友在马来西亚的生活，并不容易。有重重的挑战，我觉得可能就像妮莎所说的这样子，如果今天我们从今天开始我们成为他们的盟友，在你自己的脸书上面分享一些关于他们的事件，让大家更知道说，这一群跨性别朋友其实有面对怎么样的难题，其实我们可以让他们的生活变得更好，也让我们的社会变得更美好。再次谢谢大家今晚的收看，下一次我们 On the Hot Seat 将会为您带来更精彩的人物，谢谢。